recorded. And also we ask that you please put yourself on mute if you're not talking, just to avoid any extra background noise. You can do that either by your phone, or you could also use the gray button that's next to your name on the participant list that's off of WebEx. So you could do that either way. Also, please avoid putting your call on hold, because we will hear the background noise from the waiting. And then also, if you're having any technical support or need WebEx technical support, you can call in this number. It's a toll-free number, and give them this meeting number. And then also, please feel free to use the chat box that you have also located on your screen on the right-hand side, which you'll see there's a chat box. And you can just go ahead and enter any questions or comments that you want to post there, and we'll be able to go ahead and address them accordingly.
Vanessa, it's Lisa again. Sorry. Can you just quickly do another inventory of who's on and who's actually on the WebEx versus the phone? Because I'm getting a report back that my browser will not support this, and I'm wondering if anyone else. I know you're saying that may be a technical issue, but if everybody is having the same technical issue, it's probably something you need to know.
So for me, I have to use the there's in fine print on one of the pages that gives you these funky messages. It says, do you want to sign in with Java? And if you click the link to sign in with Java, you get there.
Ooh, I think I got it.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
Okay, great. Hey, Becky.
Oh.
Thank you for that. So, but a good question. If we could just get a roll call as to who's on the line, if you can just please state your name and also the site that you're representing.
This is Abby. I'm one of the presenters, co-presenters with Mary. I'm in Santa Maria. Mary's in Santa Barbara.
Thank you, Abby.
Hi, it's Elisa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was trying it on the computer too, but it doesn't seem that my microphone's working on the computer.
Oh, okay. Who else do we have on the call with us?
Hi, this is Becky from the COE.
Thank you, Becky. It looks like we're still waiting for her to join the audio.
You look good, Mary.
Okay, thanks.
So it looks like we have Lori joining us, and then we also have Arthur on the call. Hopefully, if you're having any audio issues, again, call technical support from WebEx. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton over to Mary, and then both Mary and Abby can begin their presentation after your intro.
Abby, I thought that you and I should first introduce ourselves. Would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Abby Krinsky, the site manager for Santa Barbara. Also oversee San Luis Obispo and Santa Maria. However, Santa Barbara kind of has taken the lead on this, and we're the early adopters in effective huddles and how to make them work and who needs to be there. So Mary's put together much of this with the help of Dr. Gaines and Jean Gibson, the lead physician and the nurse manager, on how they made it work. So.
And Abby, your background? Abby, as a master facilitator?
So I came here in December after 22 years in Vision 1 in the New England VA system, and have a combination of primary care and pharmacy and program analyst experience, and also some systems redesign. So a lot of this is kind of pieces of a lot of what I've done in the past, all all brought together here. So it was a good fit.
Thanks, Abby. And I'm Mary Hershey, the administrative officer at the VA in Santa Barbara, also covering Santa Maria and San Luis Obispo VA. Like Abby, I've been here a couple of decades. Hard to believe. My background is in counseling, and in the last maybe 7 or 8 years, I obtained a certification as a personal executive coach and do that in my personal life. And I'm primarily mentioning that today because some of what we're going to talk about can be undervalued. And I want to assure you that both Abby and I are kind of coming at this through a real analytical, mindful way. And so that we're talking kind of from our experience with employee engagement in teams. So hopefully some of you can see the slides. I've borrowed the Huddle definition from a number of materials, and the official definition, as you can see, that a huddle is a brief, scheduled daily meeting with all members of your team to plan for the day. And if you can note in the photo, if you can see that, the people that are at this particular meeting are sleeping, and I'll show you why in a minute. So the preferred definition for a huddle that we use at Santa Barbara is that a huddle is a fun, supportive, energizing event with people who value you, value your role, and share in your vision for the best outcome for the veteran. Big difference between the energy of both of those two different groups. Surprisingly, that takes work to create that fun, innovative, enthusiastic, successful team. I'm going to spend some time on this slide, and Abby, I'm going to ask you, whatever point you feel comfortable, to just jump in here. Just a brief history on Santa Barbara. For those of you who don't know, we've been in the same site for 30 years. Dr. Gaines has been our chief medical officer, lead physician, so many roles, so many hats, but he has been our touchstone, our lighthouse, our beacon. We call him the Teamlet Whisperer because he really is quite incredible in what he's done. So early on, years ago, early in PATH, we went to the big packed meeting in Las Vegas, Dr. Gaines and Jean and I, and we were there a week, which was great, learned everything that we needed to know to come back and deploy this new initiative. Part of what we know about change and new performance measures and culture change is that a lot of employees, their eyes will start to spin. It feels like one more meeting, one more thing they have to do. So Dr. Gaines knew early on that in order to do the transformation that was required for PACT is that, and to create some really strong functional teamlets, that we needed to do something different. And this is such a good example of someone using their personal strengths and talents to bring that. Dr. Gaines, for those of you that know him, he's a real gatherer. He's great at bringing people together, and not just in clinical ways and in work ways. He just gathers people. He develops relationships. He did that with me early on when I was here years ago. He's just marvelous at that. So he takes that talent of his and figures out, how am I going to get people to want to huddle? He could kind of figure out the clinical piece. Okay, at PACT, we got all sorts of fabulous tools, all the ways to make the teamlet clinically efficient. But how are we going to get people to want to come? To add one more thing. So he started by doing something to make this fun. And he is very moved by, not yet, he really loves music. So he came up with the theme song for the Huddle. And for those of you that are old as gods like me, will remember a show called Hill Street Blues. Anybody here remember that show? Oh, you're on mute. Okay. So anyway, someone else out there is very old like me. And the Hill Street Blues song was just, because Hill Street Blues was really big for a number of years, and the song's really compelling, and it would show these squad cars coming out of the garage and getting ready to get in the race and get in the mix. And so he just started playing that in his office. I mean, he told his new teamlet, you need to be in my office at 8:05. And so the song, because we're a small clinic, coming out of his office was the cue that it was time to come. And it was a nicer cue than, get down here, where are you? So it was kind of like a Pied Piper thing. People started coming in. Then he'd do this whole, Jeopardy question, just to sort of break the ice, get people, getting their brains going. And then at the end of the huddle, he had a slogan, and it was actually taken from Hill Street Blues, which early on in the show, after they had the police had their debriefing, the sergeant of the day or whoever it was would say, be careful out there. So that's how you would always end the huddle. And he created this structure, this place, this routine. In that, he worked at developing the roles so that every person there felt really valued, really important. So he focused immediately on their relationships. Once you do that, things start coming together. The clinical stuff will work itself out because clinical people can do that. They have those skills. It's a matter of how to inspire people to come together and want to do it together. We have put teamlets together with people that don't like each other. And we've gotten people say, oh, my God, I can't be on a teamlet with that person. The relationships are absolutely critical. And relationships get built very effectively when people are relaxed, and fun has a way of very quickly relaxing people. Like a Jeopardy question isn't an equalizer. It's sort of like levels the playing field. The MSA could get the Jeopardy question of the day. I wish you could see the development of the MSA on this teamlet that started in 2010 to now. Her personal growth, her confidence, her success, it's really phenomenal. And it's part because she feels such a valued part of this teamlet. It's quite wonderful. All the teamlet members in Dr. Gaines' teamlet are very strong. They would take a bullet for him any day of the week. They all feel that way about each other. So I'm going to stay with this just a little bit longer because we've all been given all the tools, all the science, all the data, all the graphs to know how to run the teamlet. I can't emphasize this strongly enough that you need someone to take this on as a host, as Dr. Gaines did. You cannot put 4 people in a room and make a huddle.
And this is Abby. I guess just one other piece I wanted to add to that is that when you are trying to produce change or make change stick or get people really interested in it, it's important to think about an employee who is more willing to do things when there's something in it for them. So it's the what's in it for me, why should I make this change? And I think by understanding people and valuing them and making this sort of team fun thing going on, that now what's in it for me is I can have a little bit of fun in the morning. I'm valued as a member. People listen to me. I get to provide input. And so that's a big piece of making change work and making people accepting of change. So the leader is integral, but in calculating, how to make people continue to do that, it's important to get to know them and to understand what makes them tick. So I think that just kind of adds to what Mary's been saying about this.
Right. And I'm glad that, Abby mentioned that, because as much as we'd like to think that we are strictly professional, that question of what's in it for me is very powerful. Dr. Gaines really does such a good job of getting to know people and finding something that's important to them, and then remembering that, whether it's their family, whether maybe it might be, something that's painful for them, but he just sort of holds all those things in a really wonderful way. And the host or the leader of the teamlet doesn't necessarily need to be the provider. I think the physician needs to be the clinical leader, but I think, and I know in Dr. Gaines' teamlet, now the LVN has taken on a very strong role of organizing. She really pulls it together. So the point that I want to make, too, is that the person that hosts it and helps nurture it and grow it may not need to be that forever. It may turn out there's someone that actually is a more natural host, gatherer, or leader that can do that, or that can just be shared because you're meeting every day. One of the things because I'm it's part of my interest in counseling and coaching is I was really watching this as I saw him doing this. I'm like, wow, they have a song, and there goes that song again. And then I would notice that they were coming to work early, even before their 8:05 huddle, and they were having these like secret dance lessons in the nurse station. And it just tickled me because it's like, for many of us, it's like we can barely get to work on time, let alone this team that wanted to come early. They were practicing to do a flash mob. They wanted to do a flash mob in one of our team meetings one day. So they were coming in early to practice. None of them were particularly good dancers, which made it even just more charming. But it just spoke to how quickly they bought in. So I just can't underline this strongly enough. If you just work on their relationships, they'll come for the fun, they'll stay because they're valued, and because these are people that work for the VA and want the mission to be successful. So besides the fun, why Huddle? Well, these are the things that we've been learning over the years now, is to focus. It's a time to focus everybody in the morning instead of everybody just like starting and running in different directions. Everybody gets focused. Everybody comes together and communicates with ease, with enjoyment, and with efficiency. And that takes practice. And having that every single day is really important. And it allows the team to think ahead, making adjustments and solving the problems before they occur. That's scrubbing the schedule, which, you hear, and that's like making sure that we're not seeing anybody that doesn't need to be seen. That's not particularly patient-centered to have people come in, make a long trip potentially, if they don't need to be seen. And then assure that the teamlet is ready for the patient. Nobody's time is wasted. Abby, I'm going to create some pauses because I know that I'm just talking really fast and nonstop. So this is a pause here for Abby to reflect on this slide.
So I think, what we have focused on in the beginning was the kind of how to get it started. As Mary said, I think we've been given lots of tools and lots of information, but that how do you get people together? And so we took this slide as a very succinct explanation of what goes on. This is sort of a compilation of all of the information that has been given out about what's supposed to happen during the huddle, who's supposed to be there. So we didn't want that to get lost. But again, a big focus on this is how to get started and how to get the huddle happening. And then this is sort of what goes on in the huddle. So that's how we kind of broke up the presentation. So does anybody have any questions yet as we're going through some of this?
We'll have time for questions. Well, the song he used is the theme from Hill Street Blues.
Oh, that's what you were talking about, the Hill Street Blues.
Yeah, the theme song.
Can you sing it?
It's instrumental, thank God.
Oh, so he was saying that. Right. That's what I thought. I thought it was instrumental.
But you could also have a song that y'all could sing. I mean, it's silly, but that relaxes people. It levels the playing field, as I said, but it just relaxes people. So a song, singing a song together, or doing yesterday we at our packed meeting, we have a weekly packed meeting. So every day people huddle. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday they huddle. But on Wednesday, all 3 teamlets and all of our PAC neighbors come together for an hour meeting, which is a great time to do improvement work, to reflect on the week, to share best practices. And yesterday we had our new awesome psychiatrist take us through bellows breathing It was the day that Joint Commission was coming, and it was one of those things like some of the staff kind of looked like, oh, God, there they go again. But it was fabulous, and to watch people, one of our physicians particularly that can be very animated in his displeasure. I was watching him while he was doing his bellows breathing, and his eyes were closed, and his face was soft, and he just looked so peaceful. And it just changed the whole mood of the day. We just sort of went into Joint Commission after that. It was just fabulous. So that could be that could be something unique, like Elisa, because, that would be a talent of yours when I was talking about, you have a special talent. That'd be something you would be great at bringing to a team with, mindfulness and relaxation.
It's interesting you're saying that, Mary, because we've been doing that on the HPDP monthly committee meetings. We start it with just 3 breaths, and then we launch into the agenda. And I agree with you. It's very altering to pause.
Yes. And if it's something that you're passionate about, you're more likely to want to repeat it and do it. It's not one of those things that applied paint. It's just something organic to you. The way that gathering people and making them comfortable and feel known and valued is organic to Dr. Gaines, and now is organic to his whole team. I've watched them change. That's been the exciting thing. And it's happening on other teamlets too, but we're focusing on his day because he really is just been a trailblazer for us. The next slide we're looking at is Dr. Gaines and I came up with years ago kind of the 10 Commandments of Huddles, and this is an excerpt from that. In one of the last slides, you'll have the whole thing. But this really was a way for us to sort of encapsulate. There's so many pieces to the huddle, and I needed some context. We can say you need to do XX, you need to do the labs, you need to do the scrubbing, you need to check for injections. But for me to have the context of, okay, it's all about the view. So, maybe today, and not every huddle you're going to be able to accomplish all of this, but you're huddling every day, so you'll have time to do that and you'll create a rhythm of your own. So I'm going to read this just because some of you may not have the slide. So the front view, the front view is in your huddles, review the day's work, the scheduled patients, and discuss any special needs or give instructions. So what's right in front of you, the work that's in front of you, that's something the huddle does. You may come into a huddle one day and first do the reverse view. Say, wow, yesterday at 3 o'clock when that patient tumped, or that patient, he came in and we weren't ready. So a reverse view. Is there anything behind us that we need to clean up before we move forward? Forward view is beyond front view. It's forward, looking at the next week. So the LVNs and MSA works together with the appointment list, looking at the work that's coming ahead and making sure that labs are ordered and x-rays are completed so that no provider is seeing a patient that hasn't had their lab or didn't have their injection or didn't have their x-ray. So we don't waste time. Don't waste the patient's time. Don't waste the provider's time. And then the future view for the RN, the provider, the NP, again, to kind of look at scrubbing. Is there any visit coming up next week that could be completed in a phone call? Can we save time for everyone? Again, continually scrubbing the schedule. We have a convergence of the old model and the new model, and we need to do some scrubbing. And when I see PACT fatigue or transformation fatigue, it's because people are trying to hold the old model and the new model and doing both, and they get tired and they get cranky. So help them let go of the old model. They can't do both. Well, they can do both, and they're going to be really unhappy. Lastly is the strategic view, which is really important. We do a lot of this at the once-weekly all-teamlet meeting, which is to look at performance. And Abby comes up, which is great, on Wednesday mornings and meets with us. She's taken us through flow maps. She always brings data. It's broken down by providers so they can look at it. The team can look and say, wow. And we're getting such real-time data now, which is fabulous. We didn't have that for so long. Abby, anything you want to say about strategic view or any of those before we move on?
I think getting the data, which we started getting it in April, certainly was a big piece of the looking at the strategic view and where are we at, how do we pick what to work on. Once we started getting that, and we were able to see that pretty consistently, at least for us, in all three clinics, the challenges were the 2-day post-discharge. And so it just made it possible to really focus on a particular measure at the same time that you're doing your huddles. So, you know that you want to look at, as you always want to, you want to look at what patients are being discharged. Are you being able to contact them timely? What are the barriers to contacting them? So that once you've identified kind of it helps you identify what you're missing, so when you go back to your huddle for your daily or even what's coming up the week ahead, do you make sure the demographics are updated? Do you know how to contact people? That kind of stuff. So each view is important, and they all sort of feed into the others. So
right.
I guess that's about it for that.
Thank you, Abby.
Mm-hmm.
The next slide is the instructions for the Huddle host, and I'm using the word host on purpose because there's a phenomena where certain words, we use them so much in our work that they lose their meaning. We don't hear them anymore. So I wanted to pick a word that was sort of non-work related. I also like the alliteration of Huddle host, of course, as a writer, but mostly it's just that when you think about host, I think about this person that is bringing people together for a certain purpose. So it's almost like if you're going to try to create a meal together and you didn't have one person that was hosting it, you might have someone bring raw meat and somebody else bring, brownies, and then, just it wouldn't come together. So you need that host. You can't just put 4 people in a room and say do it. So the host creates and sets a time, a place, a routine, whether you have a song, whether you all wear the same color scrubs, whether you have a special handshake, a special dance you start with, bellows breathing, and then set a relaxed personal tone. It's worth the time it takes to say, how was your daughter's bat mitzvah? It's just worth it. Really encourage you to do that. Or stay a couple minutes later and do that. That is not wasted time. That is really important relationship and teamwork time. Still, important to have someone monitor the time. That can be a job that you can assign early on. Ask for a volunteer who'd like to be the person that kind of keeps this time. I know they say huddle should be 5 minutes, and I think that's a great goal. New huddlers are going to need a little more time to get into the routine. So, maybe have someone set the timer for 15 minutes just until the huddle starts moving together. It's like, anything you do at the beginning takes a little bit more time. So I would rather have people make more time than meet for 5 minutes and not get anything done. Usually the MSA or the LVN will bring the schedule. You determine in your teamlet who's going to do that. They talk about also some of the materials we've looked at says, everyone should be huddling standing up. I like the idea of that kind of good energy, but the reality is that you may need to be in front of the computer. So some teamlets may want to sit down, whatever makes them feel comfortable, but someone's going to be needing to look at the computer because they'll need to say, did so-and-so actually come in last night and get their injection? So that's why it's helpful to be somewhere where there's a computer. Once you get into the patient review, keep it really concise. You don't need to review every patient. You should have been thinking about that already. The RN or whoever kind of leads the clinical piece knows which patients need to be talked about. Better to talk about a few and talk about them more comprehensively than just go through a rote review of every patient. And extraneous issues will absolutely come up, and maybe someone can be the parking lot monitor to just, write those things down. We'll come back to them another day. Making sure every teamlet member understands their task. What is it that they're doing that day before they leave? Try to end on time. Again, when you get better at that, you'll be better at the timekeeping. And then, for goodness sake, thanking people for their time and the gifts that they bring, the expertise. Just because I think pictures are so powerful, this is our 3 teamlets at Santa Barbara. Dr. Gaines' teamlet on the bottom, the red teamlet, they're all sitting down. They're big sitters. They like to sit. What can I say? And then the green teamlet and then the blue teamlet. So we got to talk about growing pains because this is not Sunnybrook Farms. We've had some real challenges. Dr. Gaines has kind of managed his challenges pretty well. The other teamlets, we've had to do some work. So I'm bringing these out so in case this has happened to you, you won't feel like, well, we can never make this work because we have this stuff happening. So let's just own it. This stuff has happened here. Teamlets meeting without all their members. In the northern CBOCs, we've had a teamlet that met, okay, it was at Santa Barbara, I'll just say that. We had a teamlet that didn't think the MSA should come because they just wanted the medical people. How are you going to get that MSA to feel invested if they're not important enough to come to the meeting? Teamlets need to meet with all their members. Anybody that doesn't do their Huddle pre-work will quickly see that they've derailed the teamlet. Early on, if the MSA is not doing their Huddle sheet, the LVN can't take it. If the LVN can't take her next step, the RN can't take their next step, and then the provider can't do what they need to do. So you develop this fabulous collaboration, and you are very accountable. So that kind of needs to be addressed. Once I read through all these, then we can come back and get some input because this is an important slide to think about the growing pains. We've had teamlets in the northern CBOCs that did not want to meet first thing in the morning. They wanted to meet late in the day. So we kind of said, well, Santa Barbara's going to do it first thing in the morning. We don't see patients till 9 o'clock. Teamlets happen, huddles happen, and then after that, the providers have their administrative time. The other CBOCs in the northern corridor wanted to do it at the end of the day. That felt more comfortable to them with their biorhythms or whatever it was. So Dr. Gaines said, okay, if you do it your way, let's see what the scores turn out to be. Abby, you want to address that a little bit? What happened when some teamlets met in the morning and then some met in the afternoon? What did we see?
So the ones that met in the morning, obviously before the chaos of the day begins and patients aren't walking in the door and you have that time to kind of gather your thoughts, do that front view, think about all those things that we've talked about. When the sites felt that they could do it better or it was a better time of day to do it in the afternoon, we had very sporadic attendance. We had very sporadic huddles because a walk-in patient might come in or the huddle that was planned at 3 o'clock, maybe there was a 2:30 patient and the appointment was running late, and so the provider didn't get to the huddle until the last 2 minutes, but they'd already tried to start without them. And so it's very, very difficult once the day gets going, and we all know that once those patients start rolling in and you got your appointments going, it's very difficult to take a group of people and stop and say, okay, now we're going to take 15 minutes all at the same time and we're going to address all of these issues. The other thing the afternoon huddles don't allow for is planning for that particular day. You can do a lot of rear view and you can think about tomorrow, but you really have no control over the current day that you're in. And I think having that morning huddle allows you to really have a good thought process about the patients that are coming in, what their needs are, how you're going to address it. Are there urgent slots open? What do we do with walk-ins if they come in? And it's a much better plan. And we saw that the other sites struggling with those afternoon huddles, and those have now changed to mornings, and they are happier. They didn't think they'd be happier, but they are happier.
So how nice to have an hour in the morning, before the nurses have to hit the ground running, so that everybody can just sort of like have a much more calm, intentional, focused morning. I'm in my best in the morning. I have my best conversations with people before, patients fill the clinic. So, and then the last piece of that to kind of add on to what Abby is saying is we saw that the teamlets that were meeting first thing were making their measures. So there's that. So we gave the other clinics 2 years to, okay, make the measures, doing it your way, not making the measures. So everyone's kind of come over, and I think if you have any takeaways today that really stand out, this is one that Abby and I would really like you to have. that first AM huddle is powerful. That time should be protected. It's a time to build relationships, connections, learn how to have a team together. Another growing pain is just the crisis management, huddling without any planning ahead. You get together and huddle, kind of more of the afternoon ones, just, all the things that are going wrong, and you're not doing any practice level thinking. And then lastly, just people that have an unwillingness to embrace a new way of doing things. I have found that it's because they've got too much on their plate. It's not, some people are just stubborn. And so people that say, I just don't like change, and I'll say, do you have a cell phone? Yeah. That's a big change. Which version do you have? Oh, you got i5? They like change fine. They like change fine when it serves them. They're not still driving the same car they had in high school. They love change. And just remind them that they do. And so you got to help them let go of the old model. That's what the coaches can do, is show them, no wonder you're so tired. No wonder you're so fatigued. You're doing two models at the same time. I'm going to ask Vanessa to give me some input. I haven't done this before. How are we doing time-wise? Should we talk about growing pains? Or
I think this would be a good opportunity to go through growing pains. So right now, one of the questions that Mary had, well, I'll go ahead and let you ask it, but it's about growing pains.
Yeah, who's having, any of these, or maybe one that we haven't listed that would like some of the wealth here with all of you to share. We got a lot of coaches here, a lot of people that can help.
And again, I'd like to remind you, if you're shy of speaking, you could also type it in the chat box. As we go along, you can type in your question or comment, and we'll be sure to address it.
And you can call and email Abby and I afterwards anytime. We're here. So lessons learned. As we just said, first things first. This is, the Stephen Covey 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. First things first. Huddles happen before the patients arrive. So important. In addition to the huddles, you need to have that once weekly PACT team meeting to continue to train PACT. Abby and I and others will continue to do the Quality Culture series in this year to come. We bring stuff back. When else are we going to have an opportunity and time? It doesn't work on email. We have to sit down with the teams and share that. That's a teaching time. That's an improvement work time. And allow every PACT teamlet member the opportunity to hurt and to lead. So once the host has got the huddles and the teamlets moving, share some of that leadership so everyone feels like they're a part of it. Huddling really helps reinforce the roles and responsibilities of every PACT teamlet member. You all have seen those wonderful handouts. They're so comprehensive that have all the roles of everybody. The huddling really helps that. Nobody can hide. Everyone's work is very visible, very accountable. And again, lastly, huddle is a live opportunity to discuss and manage your patients.
And so if I can just intervene, I know, Elisa, you just made a comment in terms of having this presented to actual teamlets. I know that the intent is to be able to have this presented to the teamlets in future, and I know we have some that are representing their teamlets for their site. So, but great suggestion. Thank you.
And this is something that I think is a great goal, that the huddle should be the highlight, or a highlight, because the other highlights may be a patient improvement, but it should be something that really makes you feel good about your job. It should be just starts the day right.
So would you like to address that?
We have a comment from Becky. Do all the teams have time set aside to huddle? Many teams do not have this, and this seems to be a major barrier to huddling. Becky, thank you for that. I'm going to show you a slide that's coming up next about what the grids that Dr. Gaines and Mr. Holt and Abby have all allowed us to switch over. It's actually the next slide, so we'll skip ahead to that. And it's coming up shortly. So this is a sample. This is the grid that we now use in all of our northern clinics. and it's really working out great. And this has been approved by GLA. So you can see that there's an hour huddle time, and after the huddle is people's admin time. And on Wednesday, just that's our example, is when we have our main packed meeting. Oh, excuse me, this is, I'm using Santa Maria's here, and they have theirs on Thursday. Right, Abby? This must be the Santa Maria one that I used.
Yeah, we just finished converting all of the providers to this schedule. We had some that had this morning schedule, and some still had the other one while we were making the conversion. So that is the plan, to restart those with the morning meeting rather than the afternoon meeting for the 1 hour.
So you can see that this grid allows us, the non-traditional encounters we've built in, and not just non-traditional, but all of our packed measures. We have 2 slots a day that are reserved for the walk-ins. Sometimes they'll see more than that, but those are masked and set up so that there's time available for the walk-ins. There's one in the morning and one afternoon. And actually, we just added a third one at Santa Maria because they were finding they had 4 walk-ins, and so they needed a third one. So, again, this is a schedule that, it's dynamic. We're changing. We're updating it. We've got our telephone visits, which are pre-scheduled. That's one of our challenges that we're working on right now, is getting the providers to timely call their patients who are waiting at home for that pre-scheduled visit, and then 2 at the end of the day. And then going back, this is a tool coming up next, which is the Huddle report that we got at Nationals in Las Vegas, and I found it so overwhelming to read that I simplified it. And if you can see at the top, I've got some brass brackets, and it says this is what the MSA completes, and on the other side is what the nurse completes. So the MSA is the first to initiate this Huddle report. They do their jobs. They turn it off to the LVN, who then turns it over to the RN. Vanessa, I believe, sent you a document copy of all of this. Please adopt it to make it work for yourself. We use these to start with until people got the kind of the rhythm and the whole mojo of what the Huddle looks like. This was so important for us to have at the beginning, but then it became sort of a mental template, and they don't need to use it anymore. Some teammates may want to use it always. Some may grow out of it, but it's fine to use it forever. And then I just want to show, because again, this is not fluff. This is I don't think it's an anomaly. We've been very successful at Santa Barbara. We just yesterday. So this is June data. Santa Barbara had perfect scores. We're all green. This was for June, and then yesterday we found out we did it again. And it's not happening anywhere else yet, but people are getting really close, and we are going to be so happy to share 4 teams with everybody else. I have to just tell you, I'm connecting the dots here, that this works because somebody, Dr. Gaines, took the time to make the Huddle a place that people wanted to be. And it was fun, it's valuable, and it furthered the mission, and we have data to back it up. This is the whole 10 guidelines, and you can read the handout just because I don't want to take any more time talking, but it's there, and it'd be a great thing to share with your teammates right away. And kind of last thing is the things to be sure to: identify a host leader to grow your teamlet and guide the work. Use the Huddle sheet as directed as needed until you're comfortable not using it. Have a timekeeper. Ensure your Huddle runs at least 5 minutes, no more than 15 minutes, and keep your Huddles on track. And this is Dr. Gaines and his red team in 2010. They immediately got red shirts, which was so fun. This is on a letter that they send, give to patients that are coming in, and they say, this is your teamlet. There's a whole bunch of text that just says, here's how to get a hold of us. Here's our names. We're here to help you. You're the core of our teamlet. And they're just so friendly. I mean, who doesn't want to be a part of this teamlet, for God's sake?
So thank you, Mary and Abby, for that. What we'd like to do now is kind of open the floor and create a discussion amongst everyone here. I mean, the entire point is that I'm sure the reason you gathered is to kind of gain more insight as to not only how our other sites are doing Huddles but also how can you apply their practice into your own, or at least how can you benefit from someone else's knowledge in Huddle. So this is the perfect time to open the floor again and ask these questions. So these are a couple of questions where we want to know. It's, what are you doing for the Huddles at your site? Some of you may or may not be doing them or just functioning a bit differently, and that's okay. I think, again, the purpose of this call is to be able to find out where we can help you with improving, or where, if you have questions about certain things, you're not alone. You have a team here, and Mary and Abby are gracious enough to help us in that effort. Also, what are you, kind of going back to what Mary's question was, what are your growing pains? What are you causing you the most problems? So let's take a moment to discuss that. And again, if you're having any audio issues, you can type them in. Otherwise, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
There's a question about why this grid isn't being used at all the sites. Person is, I think this is Elisa, saying it's very similar to the samples that VACO sent us back in April 3 years ago at Vegas. What are we missing and moving forward, do you think? I think there can be some inertia that happens, and I think that you know, managers need to get with their ad pack and say, we'd like to, you know, we'd like this grid. It's going to take some time and prep, and I'm happy to help you with that. It just needs to be done. I think one of the things that's helped us be successful is Dr. Gaines and I, and certainly Abby, has proven to be a great doer. We ask permission, we get it, we go. And someone just needs to just get on the pony and ride it. It's been approved, so you know, Dave Holt has said yay.
And for me, so as the site manager, you know, one of my sort of responsibilities is to be that connection between the CBOC and the executive leadership team. And I have no angst about calling Dave Holt and throwing the latest idea past him, and he's generally very supportive. I mean, so long as the focus of it is to take care of patients and work best with the staff and get the work done, and if you also get to meet the measures, well, that's great too. But he's been very, very supportive of this, and as Mary said, I think, you know, we saw that it worked in Santa Barbara with that grid, and we just eventually just pushed it to the other sites.
Yeah, I think particular right now, this is a very receptive climate right now for success. So I think you can say, here's a grid that's working. This is you know, the grid isn't the solution, but the grid is one of the most powerful tools to move your teamlet forward. And it's going to take some work and getting your providers on. Yeah. So.
Any other questions?
So this is Abby. I just want to make one other comment about the grid. It was interesting that in Santa Maria, which was the last site to take on this format, when they wanted their afternoon huddles, but when they actually saw this grid and saw how it was put together, there were actually allotted time for telephone visits, allotted time for those urgents. We gave them a few more urgent slots, and they actually then were in a hurry, and it was kind of like, you know, well, Mary, how quickly can you do this? So they realized that the format of that grid was actually better for them. And I think visually seeing it helped rather than just the discussion about, you know, well, you need to huddle in the morning. So I don't know if sharing this visually with some of the providers would make a difference, but I know their eyes lit up when Mary was at the meeting where we discussed this with them, and there was a lot of sort of instantaneous pressure to make those changes.
One of the reasons they were resisting was that the providers had historically and for decades had a 4 hour of admin time in their schedule, which was their time to catch up. So even here at Santa Barbara, people were resistant to, not Dr. Gaines' team up, but others were resistant to giving up that 4 hour block because we said you can't have a 4 hour block of admin time and then have an hour every morning. So, I think they've been happy to have the time in the morning is just really nice. They're much more productive. And when you have a whole afternoon off, we found people who were starting to use that to go to the dentist or kind of shoot the breeze. It wasn't a really effective time. Not for everybody, but this is a much better, you have to be more focused and you've just got an hour or, 45 minutes.
So we've had a request to also offer you a copy of the grid. I'll go ahead and distribute that to the group and use it as you see fit. I think before we, it's getting close to time, and before we sign off, I think if we can, each of us from the site, if you can kind of just give us one thing, there are many good points, takeaway points that were made in today's presentation. What's one thing that you took away that you'd like to implement at your practice? And I'm going to go ahead and go in not chronological, alphabetical order.
At least it's the oldest.
That's so funny.
Okay, ladies.
Beauty before age, Elise.
Yes.
I don't work in a clinic. But
what would you like to take back to your site to help out your team at it?
I'd like to see this offered again where there's more people participating. I think obviously this is the day before a long holiday weekend, and we didn't get quite the response. But I'm going to bring this back to Dr. Altman and talk to her, brainstorm with her and Amira on how we can get this information out to more people. And I think it is a real question that I posed, which is why isn't this being done everywhere? I mean, it seems pretty simple. I don't think sites need to buy in. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And the proof is in the pudding for sure, because not only did they tell us to do it this way, when Northern Seabox did it, it worked. So what's the problem?
And so, Becky, while you're not practicing, Elisa, thank you for that. While you're not practicing, what's one takeaway that you took from this class?
Well, I'd love if I can have permission to share at least that 10-item not checklist, but the 10 items for huddles. If I could post that on our site we use for the COE, I have a toolbox kind of thing on there, and to help other teams in trying to do things. And I'd love to be able to, if I can have your permission, to put that on there to share with other teams throughout our region for huddles, because this is definitely seeming to be one of the more difficult areas for teams to get moving on, and it, in my opinion, is probably one of the most useful things that we have brought forward. So if I could do that, I would love that, and definitely share some of these points when I'm doing trainings and talking about huddles. I'm going to keep a lot of this in mind to be able to add into our curriculum that I share and talk about. We like to talk about teams that are really doing great in different areas and sharing their stories. So I definitely want to be able to do that.
Well, thank you. And Arthur, do we have you on the line? And Lori, I know that you mentioned, I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself. If not, you did make a comment saying, one of the things you'd like to do is implement the grid.
Right. So Lori, Abby and I talked the other day at QCS about getting together. Laura, you were interested in shared medical appointments and, making sure everybody's huddling and they have the right tools and information. So we'd love to help you with that. It's going to just make everything so much easier. It's fun. And it's fun and it moves things. Yes, you're so welcome. She said thank you. So happy to help. One of the things that I thought of today was just we have a mental health team that is really starting to congeal and come together. And I was thinking, they need a song. They need we're going to take their picture. We have a improvement board that Abby and I have been working on, and the mental health team is definitely our PAC neighbors, so we want to get their picture up there. So they're going to get their picture taken Tuesday. But so I really want to work on helping them with some of this.
So that's great. Thank you so much, Mary and Abby, and everyone that's on the call. Thank you for participating. We hope this was helpful to you. And there's a next session, which is on phone visits, and that's occurring on September 18th. It's a Wednesday from 1:30 to 2:30. So hopefully you can also join us for that. And again, thank you to everyone for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy
Labor Day weekend.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye.